So welcome back guys to another video. In today's video I'm going to be doing a tag video. I've been tagged by Dave, my good friend Dave, aka Longboys Post 1975, who asked me what is my top 5 most nostalgic games. Now the first game I want to talk about is Toki, going 8-bit. Now I have a lot of memories with Toki. The first one of course being Nick Arcade. If you guys remember that show on Nickelodeon, it was a game show that was based around video games. It even had kids inside the video game, and you know, at that time it just completely floored me, and I couldn't believe that these kids were inside this game. I didn't know about green screen. I was like only 8 years old, but this was one of the games they would play. They would play Toki, and it wasn't until a couple of years later, you know, when my town got a Funko-Land, I ended up getting Toki on the NES, and I really enjoyed it. But the Sega Genesis version is always going to be one of my favorites, next to Arcade, which I did a Let's Play of. And it's a very simplistic game, but it's very challenging. I love the sound effects it has, and you know, I remember when I went to the Boys and Girls Club, they actually one summer got, you know, 3 arcade cabinets, and one of the arcade cabinets was Toki. So I don't know what it is, but this game always goes back in my life in some way. And you know, this was also the first purchase I ever bought on eBay back in 2008. And oh man, if you were growing up in the 90s during the arcade scene, this was a game that's definitely going to be on everyone's radar, and that is Street Fighter 2. Now, I picked the Genesis version for a certain reason. I love the Super Nintendo and the Sega Genesis version, but I like Championship Edition. That's my favorite version of Street Fighter 2. There's something about it. It's the one I played the most in the arcades. Even played it at Burger King. My Burger King had an arcade cabinet of Street Fighter 2 Championship Edition. And, you know, I love the Super Nintendo version of Street Fighter 2 Turbo. I think the sound's great, and it's close to arcade perfect. But I love the 6-button controller on the Sega Genesis. Hands down, it's probably my favorite controller when playing these 16-bit fighters. And something about it, I think it's the button placement. You know, it's all in a row. I don't really like using the L and R for, you know, the high punch and the high kick in Street Fighter. So yeah, I mean, growing up in the 90s, how can Street Fighter 2 not be on this list? And next up, of course, is going to be Super Mario World on the Super Nintendo. Now, this was the first game, of course, that I played on the Super Nintendo. This was my introduction to the Super Nintendo. But there's a really fun story behind this, because the first time I ever played it was actually from my cousin. He had a Super Nintendo, and he brought it over to my house, and we played this all night. And we were going to even have a sleepover, because I didn't have school the next day. It was like on a Friday night, but he ended up getting sick and having to leave, and he actually decided to leave the Super Nintendo there. And so I stayed up all night playing Super Mario World myself, and I mean, that's really cool. I thought it was really awesome, and to this day, my cousin Jamie, he's still like a really awesome guy, and I really, you know, look up to him. And man, if it wasn't for Jamie, and if you're watching this, Jamie, you introduced me to this, and thank you so much for the memories. And of course, The Legend of Zelda on the NES. I don't think this game needs any sort of introduction, but I will say that this game really means a lot to me and really brings back a lot of memories, because Legend of Zelda was the first game I played that was kind of just open world. You know, before I played this game, I played a lot of linear, you know, level-based games like Castlevania or Super Mario or Mega Man, you know, stuff like that. So, needless to say, when I first played this game, I didn't know what I was getting myself into, and I don't want to say I didn't enjoy it, but I was just completely lost. I was like a little fish in a big pond, and it wasn't until, you know, a little bit later, a couple of months after I played it, that I found Nintendo Power that had a walkthrough, and it all made sense at that point. And to this day, this is still one of my favorite games on the NES. I mean, the moment you hear that opening, I mean, it's just, it brings me back to the days sitting Indian style in front of the TV in the living room and playing this game for hours until, you know, my mom or my dad or somebody would tell me just to, you know, shut it off so they could watch TV. Ah, good times. And the last game I want to talk about is probably my most nostalgic game I have in my collection. It really brings back a lot of memories. It's very sentimental to me, and that is Mystical Man on the Atari 2600. Now, I made a video about how I got this game, and what makes this game so special is this cartridge right here is the very first video game I ever played. This cartridge actually belonged to my grandfather, and he was a huge gamer. He's the one who got me into the hobby, and I remember going to his house on Thanksgivings and holidays and him hooking up his 2600 in the living room and playing these games for hours. And Missile Command was one of them that we really enjoyed. You know, I played other games like Asteroids and stuff like that, and you know, I definitely encourage you guys to check out the video where I talked about finding this, because it's really interesting, and I don't want to go into like, you know, superstitions or anything like that, but I really thought it was kind of weird that I found this game, you know, 2 years after his passing, and then just a couple of months later I finally got a 2600, because I never could find his 2600 that he used to have. My friend Devin actually gave me a 2600, so I was actually able to, you know, plug this cartridge in. It still works perfectly after all these years, and play it. And man, it just really, it was kind of emotional, you know, because it brought back a lot of the memories, and that's probably one of the reasons why I love collecting video games. I love collecting the memories and making new ones with games maybe I didn't have a chance to play when I was younger. And I mean, that's really what the hobby is all about for me, and of course just having fun. But yeah guys, I definitely want to thank Dave, Longboys Post 1975, for tagging me in this video. Be sure to check out his content as well. I met Dave right when I started doing YouTube. He was like one of the first YouTubers, in my opinion, that, you know, kind of took me under his wing and, you know, kind of showed me the world of YouTube, you know, being a content creator as opposed to just being a watcher. He just really helped me out getting my feet wet, and I love his discussions. His channel is one of the reasons why I hate the fact that YouTube no longer does video responses, because he's always got something great to talk about, and it's not just gaming, it's just whatever's on his mind. So definitely check his channel out. As always guys, thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing, and as always, happy gaming.
Can't get enough of Excess Gaming Podcast? Be sure to check out our audio podcast on podomag.com. You can also subscribe to us on iTunes. And if you have a YouTube channel or podcast you'd like to share, be sure to check us out on Facebook on our group page and join the community. As always guys, thank you so much for all the support, and happy gaming.